Chapter 1. The Perfect Facade. The Harper family lived in a world that seemed too perfect to be true. Their home on Elmwood Lane stood out with its white picket fence, neatly trimmed hedges, and a cherry-red door that welcomed every passerby. Inside, the walls were decorated with framed photos, smiling faces from beach vacations, birthday parties, and cozy Christmases, each a snapshot of a flawless life. To the neighbors and friends, the Harpers were the ideal family, a beacon of love and stability in a chaotic world. Anna Harper, 45, was the soul of this household, with gentle hazel eyes and loose brown hair, often tied back in a practical bun. She moved through her days with a warm, nurturing energy. A dedicated mother, she baked cookies for school bake sales, stayed up late helping with homework, and kept the house running smoothly. Anna took pride in being the family's anchor, the one who held everything together through thick and thin. Her life was a whirlwind of cooking, cleaning, and planning, but she cherished every moment of it. Her husband, Mark, 47, was the provider, a successful corporate executive with a strong jawline and a charming smile. His quiet confidence had earned him respect at work and admiration at home. Anna met him in college, two young dreamers with little more than ambition and love. Together, they built a life of comfort and joy. Mark's long hours at the office ensured their financial security, while Anna's care transformed their house into a home. They were a partnership built to last, or so she thought. Their children completed the picture. Sophie, 17, was a high school senior with her mother's eyes and her father's sharp wit. An aspiring artist, she brought laughter to any room, though her stubborn streak sometimes led to family debates. Ethan, 14, was quieter, a soccer player with dreams of a professional career. With his father's dark hair and a shy smile, he was the gentle heart of the family. The siblings were close, often teasing their parents or sharing secrets under the backyard stars. As their 20th wedding anniversary approached, the house hummed with anticipation. Anna had spent weeks planning a grand celebration. She reserved a private room at La Belle Époque, the town's most elegant restaurant, and invited close friends and family. A custom 3-tiered cake with gold accents and a miniature bride and groom figurine was ordered a tribute to their wedding day. This anniversary wasn't just a milestone, it was a celebration of their enduring love and resilience. The morning of the event dawned peacefully. Anna woke to sunlight filtering through the bedroom curtains, Mark's side of the bed already cold. A note on the nightstand read, "Early meeting. Love you always." In his familiar handwriting, she smiled, tracing the words. His late nights were common lately, but his thoughtful gestures flowers. Date nights, warm hugs kept her reassured. She understood his dedication to work. Downstairs, Anna brewed coffee, the rich aroma filling the kitchen. She opened her planner, a worn notebook of to-do lists. Today's page read, "Pick up dress, confirme la belle époque, call florist." Everything was set. As she sipped her coffee, her mind drifted to their early years, a cramped apartment, leaky faucets, late-night money fights. They had faced it all together, growing stronger each time. Mark was her rock, and she was his. Footsteps broke her reverie. Sophie shuffled in, hair a mess, pouring orange juice. "Morning, Mom. Big day, huh?" she mumbled with a sleepy grin. "Yes, sweetheart. We're all dressing up." Anna replied, her eyes twinkling. Ethan followed, groaning about a tie. Anna laughed, ruffling his hair. "It'll be worth it," she promised, watching them. Her heart swelled with pride. The day passed with errands. Anna picked up her navy blue gown, its shimmer catching the light, and collected white roses for the centerpiece. She confirmed the restaurant reservation, double-checking details. By evening, the house glowed under the golden sunset. Anna paused in the driveway, admiring their home. Inside, she set the table for a pre-anniversary dinner with the best china and candles, playing classical music. Her phone buzzed a missed call from an unknown number. Frowning, she noted it wasn't the first time. No voicemail, just a silent alert. She hesitated, wondering if it was important. Lately, Mark's late nights and locked phone had nagged at her, but she dismissed it. They were the Harpers perfect, untouchable. Shaking off the unease, she returned to her preparations, unaware that this call was the first crack in their flawless facade. Chapter 2. The Unseen Whispers. The days following the pre-anniversary dinner passed in a haze for Anna Harper. The golden glow of their perfect family life seemed to dim, replaced by a shadow she couldn't quite name. The memory of that missed call lingered in her mind, a quiet itch she couldn't scratch. She tried to focus on the upcoming celebration at La Belle Époque, telling herself it was just her imagination running wild. But deep down, a nagging doubt had taken root, growing with each passing hour. Mark's behavior began to stand out more sharply. He had always been a busy man, his job demanding long hours at the office. But lately, his absences felt different. He came home later than usual, often past 9, his suit wrinkled and his tie loosened as if he'd been somewhere other than a boardroom. Anna noticed he kept his phone close, the screen always face down on the table, and he'd grown quick to silence it when it buzzed. One evening, as she cleared the dinner plates, she caught him slipping into his home office and locking the door behind him, a habit he'd never had before. The soft click of the lock echoed in her ears, a sound that felt like a betrayal in itself. Sophie, ever observant, added fuel to Anna's growing unease. One night, as they washed dishes together, Sophie leaned in close, her voice low. "Mom, I heard Dad on the phone last night." It was late, and he was in his office. He sounded different, like he was talking to someone special. Her words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Anna's hands stilled under the soapy water, her heart pounding. "What did you hear?" she asked, trying to keep her tone light. Sophie shrugged, her brow furrowed. "Just whispers." He said something like, "I'll see you soon." And then he laughed. It wasn't like when he talks to us. Anna forced a smile, patting Sophie's hand. "It's probably just work. Sweetheart, you know how stressed he's been." But inside, her mind raced. She didn't want to believe it, didn't want to let her daughter's words plant seeds of doubt. But they did. That night, while Mark showered, Anna crept into their bedroom. Her pulse quickening, she picked up his phone from the nightstand, her fingers trembling as she entered the passcode, his birthday, a detail she'd always found endearing. The screen lit up, but there was little to see. His messages were sparse, mostly work emails, and his call log showed nothing unusual. Then she noticed a deleted text from an unsaved number, the timestamp from just hours ago. Her breath caught. What had he erased? She set the phone down quickly as the shower stopped, her mind spinning. "It's nothing," she whispered to herself, retreating to the kitchen under the pretense of making tea. But the image of that deleted message burned in her thoughts. Mark emerged, towel around his waist, and kissed her forehead. "Long day," he sighed. Oblivious to her turmoil, Anna nodded, forcing a smile. But her trust in him was beginning to crack. The next morning, Anna watched Mark as he prepared for work. He moved with his usual efficiency, pouring coffee into a travel mug, adjusting his tie in the hallway mirror. But there was a tension in his shoulders, a guarded look in his eyes that she hadn't noticed before. "Big meeting today?" she asked. "Testing the waters." Mark glanced at her, his smile tight. "Yeah, could run late again? Don't wait up." He grabbed his briefcase and was out the door before she could respond, leaving her standing in the kitchen, the silence deafening. Sophie and Ethan joined her for breakfast, their chatter a welcome distraction. Sophie rambled about an art project, while Ethan complained about soccer practice. Anna listened, nodding at the right moments. But her mind was elsewhere. She thought about the locked office, the whispers Sophie heard, the deleted text. Was she overreacting? Mark had been her partner for 20 years. Surely he wouldn't hide something so significant. Yet the doubts gnawed at her, a quiet voice urging her to dig deeper. That afternoon, Anna found herself standing outside Mark's office, her hand hovering over the doorknob. She knew the lock was simple, a cheap mechanism they'd never bothered to replace. With a deep breath, she retrieved a hairpin from her dresser and worked it into the lock, her heart racing. After a few tense moments, the door clicked open. Inside, the room was tidy. His desk organized, a laptop closed, a stack of files neatly aligned. But something felt off. She opened a drawer and found a small velvet box, the kind that might hold jewelry. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet, far too elegant for her taste. Her stomach dropped. Who was it for? She closed the drawer quickly, her mind reeling. The bracelet could be a gift for her, a surprise for the anniversary, she told herself. But the secrecy, the locked door, the whispers, it all pointed to something darker. Anna stepped back, her hands shaking. She didn't confront Mark when he returned that night, choosing instead to watch him from a distance. He seemed normal, laughing with the kids over dinner, but she couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. The perfect facade of their family was beginning to show its first cracks, and Anna knew she couldn't ignore it any longer. Chapter 3. The Eve of Celebration. The night before the Harpers' 20th anniversary celebration arrived with an air of forced festivity. Anna had spent the day putting the final touches on her plans, determined to make the evening special, despite the doubts swirling in her mind. She had decided to host a small family dinner at home, a tradition they'd kept for years before big events. It was a way to include Sophie and Ethan in the celebration, even if the main event at La Belle Époque was for adults only. But as she moved through the kitchen, preparing Mark's favorite meal, roast chicken with rosemary and garlic mashed potatoes, her thoughts kept drifting back to the silver bracelet she'd found in his office. Anna set the table with their best china, the plates reserved for special occasions, and placed a bouquet of white roses in the center, their scent mingling with the aroma of the food. She lit a few candles, their flames casting a warm glow over the dining room, and put on a playlist of classical music to set the mood. Everything looked perfect, a mirror of the life she'd worked so hard to build. But inside, Anna felt anything but perfect. The discovery of the bracelet, Sophie's words about Mark's late-night phone call, and the deleted text message had woven a web of suspicion she couldn't escape. Mark arrived home just as Anna finished setting the table, his tie loosened and his face tired. He smiled when he saw the spread, wrapping an arm around her waist. "This looks amazing, Anna," he said, his voice warm. "You've outdone yourself." For a moment, Anna felt a flicker of the old love they'd shared, the kind that had carried them through 20 years of marriage. She leaned into his touch, wanting to believe in him, in them. Then he surprised her with a gift, a small velvet box, not unlike the one she'd found in his office. Her heart skipped a beat as she opened it, revealing a stunning diamond necklace, its stones sparkling in the candlelight. "For tomorrow," Mark said, his eyes soft. "I wanted you to have something special for our anniversary." Anna's breath caught, a mix of relief and lingering doubt washing over her. The necklace was beautiful, a gesture that felt like the Mark she knew. She smiled, tears prickling her eyes, and kissed him softly. "It's perfect," she whispered, trying to push her suspicions aside. Maybe the bracelet in the office was for her after all, a backup gift he'd decided against. Maybe she'd been wrong to doubt him. For a brief moment, she allowed herself to hope, to believe that their love was still unshakable. But as they sat down to dinner with Sophie and Ethan, that hope began to fray. Mark was overly attentive, complimenting Anna's cooking, pouring her wine, even pulling her into a slow dance in the living room after the meal. His affection felt forced, a performance rather than a genuine expression of love. Sophie and Ethan laughed, enjoying the rare sight of their parents dancing. But Anna couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. As Mark spun her around, she caught a whiff of an unfamiliar scent, a floral perfume that definitely wasn't hers. Her body stiffened, her smile freezing on her face. "Mark, what's that smell?" she asked, her voice trembling despite her effort to sound casual. Mark's grip on her tightened for a split second before he released her, stepping back with a forced laugh. "Oh, probably something from the office," he said, waving a hand dismissively. "You know how those meetings are. Everyone's wearing too much cologne or perfume." His explanation was smooth, but his eyes darted away, avoiding hers. Anna's stomach twisted, the scent lingering in her nose like a silent accusation. She wanted to press him, to demand the truth. But Sophie's voice broke the moment, calling them back to the table for dessert. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Anna played the role of the perfect wife and mother, laughing at Ethan's jokes, listening to Sophie's stories about school. But her mind was elsewhere. She watched Mark across the table, searching for signs of deceit in his every move. He seemed normal on the surface, but there was a tension in his posture, a guardedness she couldn't ignore. As the kids cleared the plates and headed upstairs, Anna sat alone with her thoughts, the diamond necklace now feeling heavy around her neck, the floral scent, the bracelet, the deleted text. They were pieces of a puzzle she didn't want to solve, but she knew she couldn't ignore them any longer. Tomorrow was their anniversary, a day meant to celebrate their love. But Anna feared it would mark the beginning of something far darker. Chapter 4. The Shattered Trust. Anna Harper woke the morning after the family dinner with a heavy heart, the scent of that unfamiliar floral perfume still haunting her thoughts. The diamond necklace Mark had given her sat on the dresser, its sparkle now a bitter reminder of her doubts. She couldn't shake the image of the silver bracelet in his office, the deleted text on his phone, or Sophie's words about his late-night whispers. The pieces were starting to fit together, and Anna knew she couldn't ignore them anymore. She had to know the truth, even if it destroyed everything she held dear. She moved through the morning routine on autopilot, making breakfast for Sophie and Ethan, packing their lunches, and sending them off to school with forced smiles. Mark had left early again, his note on the counter claiming another meeting. Anna stared at the note, her hands trembling. She couldn't wait for answers any longer. After the kids were gone, she grabbed her car keys, her mind set on following Mark. She had to see for herself where he was really going. Anna drove to Mark's office building, parking across the street where she could watch the entrance unnoticed. Her heart pounded as she waited, her eyes scanning for his familiar figure. An hour passed, then 2, and just as she began to doubt her plan, she saw him. Mark emerged from the building, his suit impeccable, but he wasn't heading to a meeting. He climbed into his car and drove off, Anna following at a careful distance. Her palms were sweaty on the steering wheel, her breath shallow as she trailed him through the city. Mark's car finally stopped at a quaint downtown restaurant, a place Anna had never been to. She parked a block away, watching as he stepped out and adjusted his tie, a nervous habit she knew all too well. Then she saw her, a young woman with auburn hair and a radiant smile, stepping out of a taxi to meet him. She was in her early 30s, confident and elegant in a red dress that hugged her figure. Anna's stomach dropped as she watched Mark greet the woman with a warm smile, his hand brushing hers as they walked into the restaurant together. The familiarity between them was unmistakable. Anna's hands shook as she pulled out her phone, snapping photos of the scene. Each click felt like a dagger to her heart. The evidence of Mark's betrayal now captured in stark clarity. She zoomed in on the woman's face, noting her features, sharp cheekbones, green eyes, a laugh that seemed to light up the world around her. This was Clara, the name Anna would later learn, a woman who had no right to be in her husband's life. Tears blurred her vision as she lowered the phone, her chest tight with a mix of rage and despair. 20 years of marriage, 2 children, a home filled with love. It was all crumbling before her eyes. She drove home in a daze, the photos burning a hole in her pocket. The house felt eerily silent without the kids, the walls that once held laughter now suffocating her with their memories. Anna sank onto the couch, clutching the phone, replaying the scene in her mind. She wanted to confront Mark, to scream at him, but she wasn't ready, not yet. She needed time to process, to figure out how to protect Sophie and Ethan from the fallout. The thought of her children broke her heart even more. How would they handle this? How could she tell them their father had betrayed them all? When Sophie and Ethan returned from school, Anna tried to act normal, but they noticed her change immediately. Ethan, always the more sensitive of the two, sat beside her on the couch, his voice small. "Mom, are you okay? You look sad." Anna forced a smile, ruffling his hair. "I'm fine, sweetheart, just tired." Sophie, however, wasn't convinced. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, her hazel eyes searching Anna's face. "Something's wrong," she said firmly. "You've been weird since last night." Anna shook her head, her voice trembling. "It's nothing, Sophie, really. Why don't you start on your homework?" The kids reluctantly left her alone, but Anna knew they weren't fooled. She sat in the living room as the afternoon faded into evening. The photos on her phone, a constant reminder of the truth she couldn't unsee. Mark had been lying to her for who knows how long, living a double life while she planned their anniversary celebration. The betrayal cut deeper than she could have imagined. Each memory of their shared life now tainted by his deception. Anna didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain. She couldn't pretend everything was okay anymore. The trust that had defined their marriage was shattered, and she wasn't sure if it could ever be rebuilt. Chapter 5. The Confrontation. The night of the Harpers' 20th anniversary arrived, but the celebration Anna had planned turned into a battlefield of emotions. The diamond necklace Mark had given her hung heavy around her neck, a cruel irony against the photos of him with Clara burning in her pocket. She had spent the day in a fog, moving through the motions, helping Sophie pick out a dress, reminding Ethan to wear his tie while her mind raced with what she had seen. Tonight was supposed to be a triumph of their 20 years together, but instead it would be the moment she faced the truth head on. Anna waited until Sophie and Ethan were asleep, their doors closed against the tension that had settled over the house. The clock ticked past midnight, the silence broken only by the soft hum of the refrigerator. Mark had returned home late, his excuse of a work meeting wearing thin. He entered their bedroom, loosening his tie, unaware of the storm brewing in his wife's heart. Anna stood by the window, her back to him, clutching the photos in her hand. She took a deep breath, her voice steady despite the tears threatening to fall. "Who is she, Mark?" Mark froze, his tie slipping from his fingers to the floor. "What are you talking about, Anna?" he asked, his tone cautious but unconvincing. She turned to face him, holding up the photos, images of him and Clara laughing, their hands touching, their intimacy undeniable. His face paled, his mouth opening and closing as he searched for words. "Where did you get those?" he finally managed, his voice low. "I followed you," Anna said, her voice breaking. "To that restaurant. I saw you with her. Who is she?" The room seemed to close in around them, the air thick with unspoken accusations. Mark ran a hand through his hair, his shoulders slumping. For a moment, he tried to deny it, muttering about a business associate. But the weight of the evidence was too much. "Her name is Clara," he admitted, his voice hollow. "It's been 6 months. I didn't know how to tell you." Anna's world shattered. 6 months, she cried, her voice rising. "On the eve of our 20th anniversary. How could you?" Tears streamed down her face, her hands shaking as she dropped the photos onto the bed. The betrayal cut deeper than she could have imagined. Each word from Mark a knife to her heart. He stepped toward her, his eyes pleading. "Anna, I'm sorry. It was a mistake. Work was stressful, and she was there. And it just happened. I never meant to hurt you." His words only fueled her anger. "A mistake? You've been lying to me for 6 months. Mark? To me? To the kids? To our family?" Her voice cracked, the pain spilling out in waves. She thought of Sophie and Ethan, of the life they'd built, and the thought of it all unraveling made her knees weak. Mark reached for her, but she pulled away, her arms wrapping around herself as if to hold the pieces of her heart together. Unbeknownst to them, the raised voices had woken Sophie and Ethan. They stood in the hallway, their faces pale as they listened through the slightly ajar door. Sophie's eyes widened, her hand gripping Ethan's arm as the truth sank in. Ethan's lower lip trembled, his young mind struggling to process the collapse of the family he'd always known. The sound of their mother's sobs pierced the silence, a sound neither of them had heard before, and it filled them with a dread they couldn't name. Anna sank onto the bed, her hands covering her face as the tears came harder. "How do I even look at you now?" she whispered, her voice raw. Mark knelt before her, his own eyes glistening. "I'll end it with her. Anna, I swear, I'll do anything to fix this. Please, don't give up on us." His plea was desperate, but it fell on deaf ears. Anna shook her head, her resolve hardening. "Fix this. You've broken us, Mark. I need time. I need to think." The room fell silent, the weight of his confession hanging between them. Mark stood, his shoulders slumped, and left the bedroom without another word. Retreating to the guest room down the hall, Anna sat alone. The photos scattered around her, each one a reminder of the life she thought she knew. She didn't know how to move forward, how to tell the kids, how to face the world. The anniversary that was meant to celebrate their love had instead become the night their family fractured, and Anna felt the pieces slipping through her fingers. Outside, Sophie pulled Ethan back to his room, her voice a whisper. "We can't let Mom see us," she said, her own tears falling. Ethan nodded, his small frame shaking. They closed the door, the sound of their mother's muffled sobs echoing in their ears. The Harper family, once a beacon of perfection, was now a house divided by betrayal, and the road ahead promised only more pain. Chapter 6. The Fallout. The morning after the confrontation dawned gray and heavy, mirroring the weight in Anna Harper's chest. The Harper household, once filled with laughter and warmth, now felt like a battlefield strewn with the wreckage of their family. The diamond necklace lay abandoned on the dresser, its sparkle dulled by the tears that had fallen on it the night before. The photos of Mark with Clara were still scattered across the bed, a cruel reminder of the trust that had been shattered. Anna sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a cold cup of coffee, staring at the empty space where Mark should have been. Mark had left the house at dawn, his suitcase in hand, a silent acknowledgement of the end of their shared life. He had moved to stay with Clara, his parting words a whispered promise to figure things out. Anna hadn't responded, her silence louder than any scream. She had watched him go, her heart breaking with each step he took toward the door. Now, the house was hers alone to navigate, a hollow shell of the home it once was. Sophie was the first to confront the fallout. She stormed into the kitchen, her eyes red from crying, her voice sharp with anger. "Why didn't you keep him here, Mom? This is your fault," she shouted, slamming a hand on the table. Anna flinched, the accusation cutting deep. "Sophie, I didn't make him leave," she said, her voice trembling. "Your father chose to go." But Sophie wasn't listening. She turned away, her footsteps heavy as she retreated to her room, slamming the door behind her. The sound echoed through the house, a stark reminder of the rift that had opened between them. Ethan, quieter but no less affected, withdrew into himself. Oh, he shuffled into the kitchen later, his soccer jersey wrinkled, his eyes avoiding Anna's. "Can I go to Jake's house?" he mumbled, his voice small. Anna nodded, knowing he needed space, but the request felt like another loss. He left without a hug. a stark contrast to the boy who used to cling to her every morning. Anna sat alone again, the silence pressing in, her mind replaying the confrontation. She had wanted to protect her children from this pain, but now they were caught in the crossfire. The day dragged on, each minute a struggle to hold herself together. Anna called in sick to her part-time job, unable to face the world. She wandered the house, picking up Mark's abandoned tie from the bedroom floor, folding his shirts that still carried his scent. Every item was a memory, a ghost of the life they'd shared. She thought of their early years, the cramped apartment, the late-night talks, the promises they'd made, and wondered where it had all gone wrong. Had she missed the signs? Had she failed him somehow? By afternoon, Anna knew she had to take action. She found a lawyer's number in the yellow pages, her hands shaking as she dialed. The conversation was brief, a discussion of divorce proceedings and asset division, but it felt like a step into a new, terrifying reality. The lawyer's calm voice offered little comfort, only practical advice that left Anna feeling more lost. She hung up, tears streaming down her face, and curled up on the couch. The weight of her decision pressing down on her. Sophie emerged later, her anger softened but her eyes still hard. "Are you really going to divorce him?" she asked, her voice quieter now. Anna nodded, wiping her eyes. "I have to, Sophie. He broke our trust." Sophie sat beside her, hesitant, then leaned into her mother's shoulder. "I don't want this," she whispered, and Anna held her tight, both of them crying. It was a small bridge, a moment of connection amid the chaos. Ethan returned as dusk fell, his face unreadable. He sat at the table, picking at a sandwich Anna had made, the silence between them thick. "Will Dad come back?" he finally asked, his voice breaking. Anna's heart ached. "I don't know, Ethan," she said honestly, "but we'll be okay. I promise." He nodded, but the doubt in his eyes told her he didn't believe it yet. The night brought no relief. Anna lay in bed, the empty space beside her a constant reminder of Mark's absence. She thought of Clara, of the life Mark was building with her, and felt a surge of anger mixed with grief. The Harper family was fractured, its pieces scattered, and Anna didn't know how to put them back together. She stared at the ceiling. The anniversary celebration at La Belle Époque cancelled in her mind, replaced by the stark reality of a marriage in ruins. The fallout had begun, and the road ahead promised only more pain and uncertainty. Chapter 7. The Weight of Truth. The days following Mark's departure were a blur of grief and uncertainty for Anna Harper. The Harper house, once a sanctuary, now felt like a prison of memories, each room echoing with the laughter that had faded. Anna moved through her days in a daze, tending to Sophie and Ethan with a forced smile. But the weight of her shattered marriage pressed down on her relentlessly. The lawyer's number sat on the kitchen counter, a constant reminder of the divorce proceedings she had initiated. Yet she felt no relief, only a deepening sense of loss. One afternoon, as Anna sorted through the family finances, a discovery turned her world upside down again. She had decided to review their bank statements, a task Mark had always handled, to prepare for the legal process. As she scrolled through the online account, her eyes caught an unfamiliar transfer. A significant sum of money moved to an account she didn't recognize. Dated just weeks ago, her heart raced as she dug deeper, finding more transactions, each one a quiet theft from their shared life. The total amounted to tens of thousands. Money Mark had siphoned off without her knowledge. The realization hit her like a punch. He had been planning this, preparing to leave her with less than she deserved. Anna's hands trembled as she printed the statements, her mind reeling with questions. Where had the money gone? Was it for Clara? The thought fueled a surge of anger, but it also brought a bitter clarity. She needed answers, and she knew where to start. She called her closest friend, Laura, inviting her over under the pretense of needing company. When Laura arrived, her warm smile faltered as she saw Anna's pale face and the stack of papers on the table. "What's wrong?" Laura asked. Sitting beside her, Anna laid out the bank statements, her voice breaking as she explained. Laura's eyes widened, her hand covering her mouth. "Anna, I didn't want to say anything," she began, her voice hesitant. "I've seen Mark with someone, a woman around town a few times. I thought it might be work-related, so I didn't mention it." The confession stung, a betrayal from a friend who had stayed silent. Anna's chest tightened. "Why didn't you tell me?" she whispered. Laura looked down. "Ashamed? I didn't want to hurt you if I was wrong." The revelation opened a floodgate. Anna called other friends, each conversation a painful confirmation. Jane admitted to seeing Mark and Clara at a cafe, their closeness unmistakable. Tom, a co-worker of Mark's, reluctantly shared that he'd heard rumors of an affair at the office. The truth piled up, each friend's silence a wound that deepened Anna's isolation. She had been the last to know, blind to the whispers that had circled her life for months. The weight of it crushed her, leaving her feeling foolish and alone. That evening, Anna sat with Sophie and Ethan. The bank statements spread before them. She had to tell them, to prepare them for what lay ahead. "Your father, he's been moving money out of our account," she said, her voice steady despite the tears. Sophie's face hardened, her anger flaring. "He's a coward," she spat, while Ethan stared at the papers, his small hands clenching into fists. "Why would he do this?" he asked, his voice breaking. Anna had no answer, only the aching truth that their father had betrayed them all. The night deepened, and Anna found herself alone again, the house silent except for the occasional creak of the floorboards. She thought of the life she'd built with Mark, the sacrifices, the dreams, the love, and felt a surge of rage mixed with despair. The money wasn't just a financial loss, it was a symbol of his intent to erase her from his future. She called the lawyer again, her voice firm as she demanded an investigation into the transfers. The lawyer promised to act quickly, but the process would take time, leaving Anna to face the uncertainty alone. Sophie came to her later, sitting quietly on the couch. "I'm sorry I blamed you," she said softly, her hand finding Anna's. It was a small gesture, but it offered a flicker of hope amid the darkness. Ethan joined them, his head resting on Anna's shoulder, and for a moment, the three of them sat in silence, a fragile unit bound by pain. But the weight of the truth lingered, a burden Anna knew she couldn't carry alone. The fallout from Mark's actions had revealed not just his betrayal, but the fragility of the trust she'd placed in those around her. As she held her children, she vowed to fight for them, to rebuild from the ruins, no matter how heavy the cost. Chapter 8. The Turning Point. The days after Anna Harper uncovered the truth about Mark's financial betrayal stretched into a painful limbo. The Harper house, once a haven, now stood as a testament to her resolve to reclaim her life. The bank statements lay on her desk, a constant reminder of the fight ahead. While the silence from Mark, now living with Clara, left a void, she was determined to fill with strength. Anna knew she couldn't let despair define her or her children. She had to turn the tide. Anna's first step was to hire a private investigator, a decision that felt both empowering and terrifying. She met the man, a grizzled figure named Mr. Daniels, in a dimly lit coffee shop, handing over the photos and bank details with shaking hands. "I need to know everything," she told him, her voice firm despite the tears threatening to spill. Mr. Daniels nodded, promising discretion and results, and Anna felt a flicker of hope. She needed evidence to protect her future, to ensure Mark couldn't strip her and the kids of what was rightfully theirs. At home, Anna turned her focus to Sophie and Ethan. The fragile threads of their family bond her new priority. Sophie's anger had softened into a quiet resentment, while Ethan's withdrawal deepened. His soccer practices his only escape. One evening, Anna sat them down in the living room, the tension thick, but her resolve stronger. "I know this is hard," she began, her voice gentle, "but we're going to get through it together. I'm fighting for us." Sophie crossed her arms, skeptical, but Ethan's eyes met hers, a silent plea for reassurance. "What about Dad?" he asked. Anna took a deep breath. "I don't know if he'll come back, but we'll be okay without him if we have to." The conversation was halting, filled with tears and awkward silences, but it was a start. Anna encouraged them to share their feelings, listening as Sophie vented her frustration and Ethan admitted his fear. She hugged them close, promising to be their rock, and felt a shift, a tentative reconnection. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress, a turning point in their fractured family. A week later, a call from Mr. Daniels broke the monotony. "I've got something," he said, his voice low. He met Anna at the house, handing over a dossier filled with photos, receipts, and emails. The evidence was damning. Mark had not only moved money, but had opened a joint account with Clara, funneling funds to buy a condo. The betrayal stung anew, but it also fueled Anna's determination. She thanked Mr. Daniels, her mind racing with plans to use this in court. That afternoon, another call came, this time from Mark. His voice was hesitant, a stark contrast to his usual confidence. "Anna, can we talk? I want to work things out." The offer caught her off guard, a lifeline she hadn't expected. She agreed to meet him at a neutral cafe, needing to hear him out, despite her anger. When they sat across from each other, Mark's eyes were tired, his hands fidgeting. "I've ended it with Clara," he said. "I want to come home. To fix this." Anna stared at him, the dossier's weight in her bag a silent counter-argument. "You've taken our money, Mark," she replied, her voice cold. "You don't get to decide when you come back." The meeting ended with no resolution, Mark's pleas falling flat against her resolve. But it sparked something in Anna, a clarity that she could stand alone. She returned home, sharing the investigators' findings with Sophie and Ethan. Sophie's eyes flashed with fury, while Ethan's face hardened with understanding. "We don't need him," Sophie said, her voice firm. Anna nodded, feeling a surge of pride. They were a team now, stronger in their unity. That night, Anna sat with her children, planning their next steps. She contacted the lawyer again, armed with the new evidence, and began outlining a future where she and the kids thrived. The turning point had come not in reconciliation with Mark, but in her decision to fight for herself. The Harper family, though broken, was finding a new shape, one built on resilience rather than illusion. As she looked at Sophie and Ethan, Anna felt a flicker of hope, a belief that they could rise from the ashes of their past. Chapter 9. The Reckoning. The day of reckoning arrived for Anna Harper, a pivotal moment in the unraveling of her marriage. She had agreed to meet Mark and her lawyer, Miss Carter, at a sterile conference room downtown, the dossier of evidence from the private investigator tucked under her arm. The weight of the past weeks, Mark's betrayal, the stolen money, the fractured family pressed down on her. But Anna stood tall, her resolve a shield against the storm. Sophie and Ethan waited at home, their presence a silent motivator as she prepared to face the man who had broken her trust. The room was cold, the air heavy with tension, as Anna took her seat across from Mark. He looked haggard, his suit wrinkled, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion. Ms. Carter sat between them, her expression neutral as she opened her briefcase, pulling out the legal documents that would shape their future. "Let's begin," she said, her voice cutting through the silence. Anna glanced at Mark, searching for the man she'd loved for 20 years. But all she saw was a stranger. Ms. Carter began by presenting the evidence, the bank statements, the photos of Mark with Clara, the receipts for the condo they'd bought together. Each piece was a dagger, and Mark's face grew paler with every page. "You've transferred significant funds without Mrs. Harper's knowledge," Ms. Carter stated, her tone sharp. "This constitutes financial misconduct, and we're prepared to pursue full restitution." Anna watched Mark, waiting for a reaction, her heart pounding in her chest. Mark's voice was hoarse when he finally spoke. "I made a mistake. Anna, I told you I ended it with Clara. I'm willing to return the money. To make this right." His words were a plea, his eyes searching hers for forgiveness. But Anna felt no softness, only a cold determination. "You don't get to decide what's right anymore," she replied, her voice steady. "You stole from our family, Mark, from our children. That's not a mistake. It's a choice." "Me." Carter slid a settlement proposal across the table, detailing the division of assets, child support, and alimony. Anna had insisted on keeping the house, a sanctuary for Sophie and Ethan, and the proposal ensured Mark would repay the siphoned funds. Mark scanned the document, his jaw tight, and for a moment, Anna thought he might fight back, but then he sighed, his shoulders slumping in defeat. "I'll sign," he muttered, his voice barely audible. "I just want to see the kids." The mention of Sophie and Ethan brought a lump to Anna's throat. She thought of the night they'd overheard the confrontation, their tear-streaked faces as they processed their father's betrayal. "That's not my decision," she said, her voice softer now. "They're old enough to choose for themselves." Mark nodded, his eyes glistening with unshed tears, and Anna felt a pang of pity, but it wasn't enough to sway her. Unbeknownst to Anna, Sophie and Ethan had insisted on coming along, waiting in the hallway outside. They had begged to be part of this moment, to see their father face the consequences. Sophie stood with her arms crossed, her hazel eyes hard as she peered through the glass door. Ethan, beside her, clutched her hand, his young face a mix of fear and determination. They watched as Mark signed the papers, their father's signature, a final severing of the life they'd known. Mrs. Carter gathered the documents, her voice brisk. "We'll file these with the court. This should be finalized within a few weeks." Anna nodded, her hands trembling as she stood. Mark reached for her, his voice desperate. "Anna, please, I'll do anything to fix this." But she stepped back, her resolve unshaken. "You already made your choice," she said, turning to leave. As Anna stepped into the hallway, Sophie and Ethan rushed to her, their arms wrapping around her in a fierce embrace. "We saw everything," Sophie whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You did the right thing." "Mom," Ethan nodded, his head buried in her shoulder, and Anna felt a surge of strength. The reckoning had been painful, but it marked the end of Mark's hold over them. As they walked away, hand in hand, Anna knew the battle wasn't over, but for the first time, she felt ready to face it, with her children by her side. Chapter 10. A New Dawn. The weeks following the reckoning with Mark brought a quiet shift to the Harper household. Anna Harper stood at the threshold of a new beginning, the divorce papers now finalized. The house on Elmwood Lane officially hers and her children's. Mark was gone for good, his name removed from their daily lives, though his shadow lingered in the lessons they'd learned. The pain of his betrayal still stung, but Anna felt a growing strength, a determination to rebuild from the ashes of their past. The financial restitution had been secured. Thanks to the evidence from the private investigator, the money Mark had siphoned off was returned, ensuring Anna and the kids had a stable foundation. She used a portion to repaint the house, choosing a soft blue for the living room, a color that felt like a fresh start. The walls, once heavy with memories of Mark, now held a promise of renewal. Anna also enrolled in an online course for bookkeeping, a skill she'd always wanted to learn. To take control of her finances and future, Sophie and Ethan, though still scarred, began to heal alongside their mother. Sophie threw herself into her art, creating a series of paintings that captured the raw emotion of their journey. Dark storms giving way to bursts of light. She displayed them at a school exhibition, her talent drawing praise that boosted her confidence. Ethan returned to soccer with a renewed focus, his shy smile reappearing as he scored the winning goal in a local match. Anna cheered from the sidelines, her heart swelling with pride at their resilience. One evening, the three of them sat around the kitchen table, a tradition they'd started to reclaim their family bond. Anna had cooked a simple meal spaghetti with homemade sauce, a favorite from happier times, and the air was filled with laughter for the first time in months. Sophie shared stories from school, her voice lighter, while Ethan recounted his game, mimicking the coach's gruff encouragement. Anna watched them, her eyes misty, feeling the warmth of their connection. They weren't the same family they'd been, but they were something new, something stronger. Anna decided to cancel the anniversary celebration at La Belle Époque, replacing it with a different kind of milestone. She took Sophie and Ethan on a weekend trip to a nearby lake, a place they'd visited years ago as a family. The memories of Mark lingered, but Anna focused on making new ones, teaching Ethan to skip stones, laughing with Sophie as they splashed in the shallow water. Under the stars, they roasted marshmallows, their faces glowing in the firelight, and Anna felt a peace she hadn't known in months. "I'm proud of you both," she told them, her voice thick with emotion. Sophie squeezed her hand, and Ethan nodded, their bond a silent promise to move forward together. Back home, Anna began to redefine herself outside of her role as Mark's wife. She reconnected with old friends, joining a book club where she found solace in shared stories. She also started a small garden in the backyard, planting flowers that reminded her of her childhood daisies and lavender, symbols of hope and calm. Each act was a step toward reclaiming her identity, a declaration that she was more than the betrayal she'd endured. Mark called occasionally, asking to see the kids, but Sophie and Ethan weren't ready. Anna respected their choice, acting as their shield, while encouraging them to heal at their own pace. She knew forgiveness might come one day, but for now, they needed space. Mark's absence became a distant ache, overshadowed by the new life they were building. As spring turned to summer, the Harper house bloomed with a quiet joy. Anna stood on the porch one morning, watching Sophie sketch in the garden while Ethan kicked a soccer ball nearby. The white picket fence, once a symbol of a perfect facade, now framed a family that had survived the storm. Anna knew the road ahead would have its challenges, but she felt ready. The broken vow had left scars, but it had also taught her strength, resilience, and the power of love that endured. With her children by her side, Anna embraced the new dawn, a future she would shape on her own terms.